yeah, basically what moved me back then, and still think it moves me right now a lot, is how technology has changed humans, how technology impacts our everyday life, and how can we be part of it. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and being an entrepreneur in Canada for me was super hard because everything was super expensive. And so I needed a job, right? I fell in love with the fact that cash, I read an article that said that cash is an evil for everyone around society, because more cash means less people in the banking sector. I love soccer, football, it's my passion. And my mom learned early on, but she also wanted me to do other things, learn how to paint or learn how to play piano. So, hey mom, okay, I'll start piano classes if I can do this, and this, and I'll go into two to three soccer teams. Okay, perfect. So that's a yes.
Welcome to Seedstars podcast. Seedstars is an organization that aims to have an impact in emerging markets by supporting the local entrepreneurs, investing in their ventures, but also sharing their story globally because we really believe they are the true heroes. We'll be listening to them and other thought leaders and disruptors that are really shaping the future of tomorrow. And we hope that together we can build a sustainable impact.
Hello guys, my name is Martin Mexia and I'm the founder of Payit. In Payit, we used to be a wallet that allowed you to pay people around you. All this because our main goal was to kill cash. A couple of years ago, we got acquired by Rappi. And this only made us closer to that goal of killing cash in our region, which is Latin America.
So welcome everyone. I'm Adriana. I used to be on the investment team at Seedstars. And that's also how I met Martin Mexia. I'm super excited to talk to you again. We last met in Switzerland 2 years ago at the Global Summit, where you represented your startup Payit. In the meantime, a lot has happened. You have been acquired. So I'm very excited to explore everything that has happened in the last 2 years, but also how you actually started Payit, what happened before at your former startup at Accenture. So I'm very looking forward to our conversation today.
Hey, Adriana, thanks for having me.
So wonderful. Let's start off with what's happening in your life right now, actually. So what's the state of it's actually not Payit anymore, right? It's RappiPay. Is that correct?
Exactly. That's correctly. Yeah, so right now I am like the head of RappiPay here in Mexico, where we're trying to create the biggest, most important financial institution or financial service provider in all Latin America. So right now I'm heading all the Mexico business from the part of, so we have 3 different sectors, which is QR payments, much like you already have in China, where everything is paid through QR codes. We have our own debit card going through the Monzo / Revolut ecosystem. And we also have a peer-to-peer segment. Those are the 3 different verticals that we're following through the RappiPay ecosystem. It's super interesting right now in Mexico because we already have a legislation. So we already have to comply with legislation as a fintech ecosystem. So it's been a lot of learning, a lot of doing, and a lot of executing on the go and trying to have both sides, being a startup, being really agile and really fast, but also on the other side, having to comply with everything that the law says we have to comply. So it's been a challenge, super fun. That's where we are right now.
Mm-hmm. And talking about payment in emerging markets, do you also serve unbanked people?
So basically, we serve absolutely anyone that wants to have a different type of banking experience. Mm-hmm. Digital money is one of the biggest and most efficient way of getting people into the banked sector, right? Of turning them from underserved or underbanked to the other side. Why? Because it's an easy way to do it. It's an easy way to do onboarding, digital onboarding. They don't need to go to a branch, even if they're far away from branches. They can still get the experience. So yes, right now we're not still concentrated on them, but it's something that we have a lot of people that are doing it. We believe that the easiest way to get that is not tackling them directly, but tackling the upper sides so that they bring them down to us. For example, we target a lot because of the Rappi ecosystem. Rappi, for those of you guys that don't know, is a last mile delivery startup. So we deliver restaurants, we deliver basically anything you need. We go, we grab it, and we bring it to you, to your house. And because of this, a lot of our, and basically what we do here at Rappi, we connect people that have time but don't have money to people that have money but don't have time. So we're this marketplace of delivery guys with people that need to have something done for them. And just because of that, normally our clients are more on the upper side of the economic scale. So that's what we're starting with. It's our low-hanging fruit. But what we've noticed is that these people are bringing people further down on the scale to us. For example, people that work for them in emerging markets. We know we have mates, we have people that help us out on every day to day. And before digital money ecosystems like RappiPay, we used to always pay in cash. What's happening right now is that these people that already have their money with us are bringing people that they have to pay towards us so they can have an easier money exchange with them. And at the same time, we are including all of them into the new banking system that we're creating.
And I would also think that your delivery drivers at Rappi also then use RappiPay to get payment, right?
Exactly. So our ecosystem works in two ways. We give them their own debit card for their earnings, and we also give them a card that is owned by us, where we disperse them so they can go when they pay at the storefront, they can pay with that one. So yeah, but we're also including them into the formal banking ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. And before we take a step back and see how you got started in the fintech world, just so people can place Rappi and RappiPay, especially people who are not so familiar with the Latin American ecosystem, because I'm pretty sure there everyone knows Rappi. How many users do you have right now?
We have around 15 million active users in the whole region, give or take. We have close to 100,000 delivery guys active per month in the region, and we have around more than 50,000 storefronts where we go and buy things. But we also have different sectors. So what we do as in Rappi is if you want your grocery, we have groceries. If you want a restaurant, we have restaurants. If you want something from an e-commerce perspective, so going and buying, I don't know, a soccer ball, we have that as well. But we have two buttons that are really important for us. The first one is cash. So it's called Rappi Cash, which is basically walking ATM. You want some cash, someone goes there, grabs it for you, and gives it to your hand. And the other one, which helps us out a lot, is another button that's called Lo que quieras. So basically, whatever you want. And you can send people there. And that button is super important for us because it's what has led us to understand what people want. So if a lot of people start asking for cash, then we know we need to start giving out cash as a button of itself. And that's how we've grown a lot. So basically, we're, like I said, we're a marketplace that connects three parts: stores, people that have time and no money, that's the delivery guys, and people that have money and no time, which is us as the clients that don't want to go out.
And so now taking a step back from Rappi and going more into your personal story. So I know you have a very international background. You have lived and worked in Canada, India, and Mexico. So can you maybe shed a little bit of light on what you have done before you founded Payit?
I lived in Mexico all my life, but I went to a British international school here in Mexico, always with the thoughts of going to study abroad. And in 2006, I went to live to Vancouver. In Vancouver, I did my undergrad. I also did a master's degree. And during my undergrad, I studied a little bit. I worked, at a research lab. So that's where a lot of the entrepreneur side came up for me. And yeah, I had a couple. I worked there for a whole summer after I graduated. I really loved it. We did an amazing. It was a visual cognition lab. So basically understanding how people feel through the sense of visual. It was really weird, but it was super interesting. After that, I decided to do a master's in business management. And there, while I was doing my master's, I met an entrepreneur in Vancouver who was from India. And he was an entrepreneur. And during I was doing my master's, he told me to start working for him. He wanted some help with his angel investments, and he put me there working for him. He also had a delivery center in India where we did a lot of software. This was when startups were, when mobile apps were just starting to get off. And yeah, and that's how I got the opportunity to go to India and be able to work from there a couple of months and work with them, with the delivery center in Noida, for about 2 years almost that I was working for this person. I studied cognitive systems, so basically it's psychology, philosophy, and computer science. I specialized in human-computer interaction. And yeah, basically what moved me back then, and still think it moves me right now a lot, is how technology has changed humans, how technology impacts our everyday life, and how can we be part of it, either on the business side or on the personal side.
Mm-hmm. And all the positive as well as negative sides
Exactly.
of that. So looking at that, you then also went on to work at Accenture for a few months. Is that right?
I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur in Canada, for me, was super hard because everything was super expensive. And so I needed a job, right? I got an opportunity with Accenture. And basically the opportunity with Accenture, they were like, hey, we'll hire you in Canada, but there's a project in Mexico that we want you to work in. So basically they were bringing me back home, earning more money, everything as a Canadian. So it was pretty nice. So I accepted that challenge. I came over to Mexico, I came back home, and yeah, I worked for telecommunications and for the consumer packaged goods sector, everything in digital, from UX, UI, and we did some econometrics, we did a lot of crazy things in order to understand what was really happening. And suddenly the project was over. They asked me to come back, and that's when I said no. I am staying. I stayed there for a couple of months more, and then I got fed up of consulting, and I started my own company, basically.
I think many people can understand how you can get fed up with consulting, especially being an entrepreneur. However, we can also see a surge of people having consulting background. Do you think it also helps you at some points in time?
100%. So a good thing that you learn in consulting is first of all, how to see everything and how to evaluate what's really going on. So getting into a client, you have to understand exactly how his business works in order to make your job. And it's really similar to what happens with entrepreneurs. With entrepreneurs, you have to understand your whole surroundings to see how you're going to make an impact. So that's something that's really good in the part of consulting. What I didn't like about consulting, and I think the word of other consulting people around me that have understand, is that not all of the projects in consulting you get to apply what you've been saying that should be applied. So you're saying what's wrong with it, but you never get to really apply it and prove that your hypothesis or what you were seeing are really the solution for this part. And I think that's why a lot of consulting people get fed up and start doing more entrepreneurs. Why? Because they're like, hey, I'm fed up of just saying what's wrong. I want to really apply my knowledge and everything that I've learned and see a difference and see if what I've seen, what I think is going to happen, really turns out that it's the correct thing. And yeah, so basically that was my point. I got fed up of telling people what was wrong and not proving that my solution was correct. And that's why I started with my own company.
Mm-hmm. So now you're there with your background, with the university background from Canada, with your entrepreneurial background or with your work experience from India. You're back home in Mexico, having done some consulting projects. How did your entrepreneurial journey then start?
So at the start, I wasn't planning to be an entrepreneur. I just wanted a different kind of setting. But while I was looking for that setting, I started doing something that I had always done, which was software. So my background has always been in software. I used to be a programmer. Everything that I had done had been in software. And I noticed there was an opportunity in Mexico where people were not really doing a good job in UX, UI, and really implementing a complete suite of programming, right? This was 2014. They had, especially around mobile apps. So I started a company. I was the only employee. I was the only person there. I used to program and I used to do sales, absolutely everything. And basically what we did was a software factory. We started doing that. It was pretty cool. We got a lot of clients. We concentrated a lot in marketing stuff, so making little games or making experiences that brands could use in their marketing efforts. And we started doing a lot of work for people like Cacharel, L'Oreal, Mexico, and a lot of them. But it was a really cyclical. So we started hiring more people, but it was still extremely cyclical, right? So one month we sold a lot, and then the next month we started programming everything. But then the next month, when we started selling again, all our programmers were on a downside. They didn't have much work. So we started doing two types of things. We started doing things that we could resell. So basically, hey, let's make this puzzle game that then we can just change the images and we can still resell it in the future. Super easy to do. But also we started doing things that mattered to us. So, hey, I see this problem, let's solve it. And one of them, the one that led to Payit, that had nothing to do with I had to do with payments, but the problem was not on peer-to-peer payments. It was not on digital money. It was basically a problem that I had, that I always forgot to pay my rent. It was just something that, hey, you're so into your day-to-day that even getting into a bank and putting the amount I'm paying, sometimes I forgot. So what we did there, this was in Mexico at that time, it was really hard to process cards via the internet. So it was either PayPal, or that wasn't about it. There was no Stripe. There was no one like that going on. So my idea at that time, and the problem I wanted to solve was, hey, I want an email to remind me to pay my rent. Click a button, and then the rent is charged to my credit card and it's deposited to my landlord's bank account. And we started looking at it. It took a lot more time than we thought it would, but we were all excited about it, so we kept on doing it. We had to connect directly to the banks. We had to do a lot of things around what we were supposed to be doing. Imagine we had to do like host-to-host connections with banks in order to be able to send information. It was pretty intense. Not as easy as now that it was just an API. It was super, super intense to do it. But we did it, and it worked perfectly. It was working amazing, and we put it out as a product. We didn't really put any marketing out of it. We were not thinking we were just like, hey, we did it. Let's put it out. It's amazing. We'll use this motor in the future for another of our clients. That was it. And we saw a lot of people using it at the end, but they were using it for different things. They were using it for things like not even for landlord payments. They were using it more for peer-to-peer payments, for people paying other people. That January, I remember perfectly, I went to visit my brother in New York. He lived in New York. And it was when Venmo was hitting it off. And when I came back, I was like, hey, I think it's a great opportunity. If it's going out in the US, it's something that we can do here in Mexico. We have a lot of experience on it. We've already done it. We already have something, the most important part, which is the connection in the bottom. Let's try and do it. At that point, I knew nothing about startups. When I say it's nothing. I had no idea about Series C, Series A. I was just thinking about old school business, right? Buy something cheaper, sell it for more money, make a revenue, and with that you can grow your company and make a company that grows itself. So when I came back, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to do it with my money. I'm going to go and ask some angel investors for some money. I had no idea how much I needed. I didn't have a real business plan back then. So I went to one angel investor and I said, hey, I need 2 million pesos, which was about $100,000, which was nothing at all. But the moment the angel investor gave it to me, he told me, hey, you're going to need a lot more money, but here you are. Do it. Come back to me when you need more money, because I know you're going to need more money, right?
So you talked to one angel investor, and
angel investor, yeah.
How did you know this person?
He's a friend of the family. a family friend. After he said yes, I went to my dad and his business partners and a lot of other people also to get money from them, and that's how we all started. But the problem was that we sold almost half of the company, so we sold 49% of the company in that point.
How did that happen?
That's the way I was used to doing business, right? Hey, if you're giving me money, you're an investor, I still have control of it, but you're not thinking about raising a lot of rounds. You're thinking about raising one round.
That's what you meant when you said you had no idea about series.
Exactly.
Different fundraising steps, how to manage a cap table early on, and all that.
Exactly. So that was one of our first mistakes back then. We were lucky enough that when we started noticing, hey, this is going to be a really cash incentive, a really business that we need a lot of money, we need to have different rounds, our investors got it. And they, for sure, and with no problem, we were able to convince them that it was better for them to lower their participation in the company instead of trying to sell afterwards. And yeah, so basically that's how Payit started. It started as a business that was never supposed to be a business, and as a product.
So you also said before we started recording that you did not really choose to start Payit. So I now know what you're referring to, that you basically solved your own problem. So what did that happen? At what point did you realize, hey, we're onto something here? Was it in New York due to Venmo, or when people started using it for random things you had not thought about before?
I think it was a couple of things. I think it was not one thing. It was not like one aha moment that got us there, but it was a series of things that started getting in line that were like, okay. It makes sense. First of all, it was for sure that people were using it. The product that was not meant for that the experience wasn't the correct one. So that gave us the idea that, hey, someone needs it, right? If people are using it when it's not meant to be this, that means that it's a necessity around everyone. The second part that we saw there was, of course, Venmo in the US coming out and being as amazing as it was okay. It's another part, like, okay, it's something that is needed. And then after all, it was more studying, right? Seeing the opportunities that we had. I fell in love with the fact that cash, I read an article that said that cash is an evil for everyone around society, because more cash means less people in the banking sector. Less people in the banking sector means less people to access to loans and to things that can make them grow. So I got so passionate about that, and I still believe it, that basically cash is the evil of everything. And that became our problem. So it was not a fact of peer-to-peer payments. Peer-to-peer payments was the beginning of something, but we fell in love with the notion of killing cash. How can we kill cash? And yeah, so basically it was a couple of things that kept on going that made us fall in love with the problem in that point.
And what was then the next step? Did your whole team from the software factory transfer to Payit, or how did you get resources?
So basically we closed the software factory. We were like, hey, we've done it once. If we want to do it again, we'll be able to do it again. Let's take this opportunity that we've been dealt with and try to solve it. And basically that's how, so everyone from the other team came to my team. We started recruiting more people, actually, because a lot of our team in the software factory were remote workers. And because of this new thing, we wanted everyone in the same place.
How many people were you back then? Just so everyone can imagine that.
It was 5 of us, full time. So those are the 5 that started to pay it at the end of the day. And all of us programmers.
Wonderful. So you actually have both a programming and business background, right?
Yes, although my programming background is fading away little by little. So at the start, it was me and my co-founder, Miguel, that we were doing all the programming for Payit. And one day we started noticing that we had to do a lot of other things with banks and with investments and all the groundwork of the CEO. And basically, he didn't even ask me. He just took away all my permissions, because he was the CTO officially. So he took away all my permissions. He was like, hey, you're not touching a line of code again. We need you on the other side. And yeah,
Clever guy.
Yeah, so I haven't programmed a lot since. Nothing, just a little bit SQL, that type of stuff. But yeah, so I understand. I see myself more than a programmer, like a technologist. I understand the notions. I know how to apply them. If someone talks to me about it, I know what they're talking about. But in order for me to be able to program it, it would take a little bit of time to get back into it.
How did you learn all of that? So how did you teach yourself everything else that more a CEO type of person or COO type of person has to do?
Being out there. So I think that one of the most important things that I think entrepreneurs should have, and it was something that I learned early on, was you have to have the right mixture of being a good listener, being a good learner, but also having a huge ego. Right? So you have to be able to be humble enough to listen to feedback, but also your ego has to be big enough to understand that, hey, I am the expert, not you. But I learn from you what I need to learn from you, and take that, and I'll take what I need from you in order to make my business and my ideas better. So the way I learned was basically out there. So when we started fintech didn't exist for us in Mexico when we started this. We were one of the first people that started with this. We were the first ones to go and talk with the government about, hey, we're doing this system. It's around the financial sector, but it's not in the financial sector. So we're the first ones to really start talking with the government about this, with the regulator. But there were a couple of other people that I learned a lot from. So I don't know if most of you guys will know, but Bitso is Bitcoin exchange, or cryptocurrency exchange here in Mexico. They were starting at around the same time as us. They were started a little bit before us, but I learned a lot from their co-founder, from their CEO. He helped me a lot. He gave me a lot of good tips. We had really good talks. Even though we were both learning at the same time, we were able to give feedback to each other and complement each other in that sense. Also talking to old school bankers to understand why they were doing what they're doing, learning, hearing them and listening to them on why my business was going to fail was pretty amazing. And yeah, so basically just being out there learning.
What did they tell you?
First of all, they always thought that I was never going to come out because of regulatory issues, right? And I always told them, like, hey, well, yeah, maybe not, but maybe yes. Maybe it's going to be through a bank. Maybe I need a bank behind me to help me out, but maybe not. So that's something that I have to talk to them. I've always followed a mantra that's helped me out a lot, also that I invite everyone here to really follow it, which in Spanish is buscar el como si. So basically, there's always a way to do it. So look for the yes. The no, if you're not doing it, you already have it. The no is there. So tell me how I can do it. It might not be the path you want to follow. It might not be the straight path that you think was going to be, but you can find a way to do it. And that was something that I talk to everyone, even my lawyers. With my lawyers, it's always something that I tell them, like, hey, I know you can't do it right now, but tell me how I can. And that's what
I love that. Not a lot of people have that kind of mindset.
Yeah, so I think that's something super important in that part. So we always look for the yes, always look to how can I do it? Not that how I cannot, but the how I can. And basically, I think that was how I learned. Looking for the yes, okay, you can do it this way, but how about this way? Or how about this way? Or you tell me, how do you think it can be done? Give me ideas that then I can go and research and can go and look for people, the right people that can tell me, that can throw me in the right direction.
Where do you think did you get this from, this kind of yes attitude or solution-oriented mindset?
I think for sure from my parents, from my dad and my mom. They've always, although I've been extremely fortunate in my life that I've been able to do whatever I want and never had those kinds of problems. But it was always, they taught us really early on that you had to earn it somewhere or another, right? And we've always, me and my brothers and everyone, we've always been really good at negotiating. Right? So, okay.
Can you give an example from your childhood of where you had to work for it or really negotiate it?
I love soccer, football. It's my passion. And my mom learned early on, but she also wanted me to do other things. She didn't want me only to stay in soccer and just be passionate about soccer and center in soccer. It's like, cool. I know you love it, but you also have to have other things around you, like learn how to paint or learn how to play piano. But I wanted to play more soccer, so I had to divide it a lot, and that was a lot of my. So, hey, mom, okay, I'll start piano classes if I can do this, and this, and I'll go into 2 to 3 soccer teams. Okay, perfect. So that's a yes. Okay, so that's how I learned to get to the yes. I know what I wanted. I wanted to be in my 3 soccer teams, one from school, one from a club, and one with my friends. How can I be able to do it, right? Okay, let me see what I have in my arsenal that I can exchange or that I can find a way to get it done. So that was,
sounds like you went through a good school during your childhood.
Yeah, no, and also like with my brother. My brother's only 3 years younger than me, so we grew up a lot together. There was a lot of this going on as well between us.
Oh, I can imagine.
Trying to get everything done. Yep.
And so looking back at the business, so now you transferred the whole like local team to Payit. I imagine that was around 2016. And then last year you were acquired. So what happened in those 2.5, 3 years?
So we grew at around 300,000 users. We were doing a total processed value, TPV, of millions. Can't remember how much it was right now, but it was a lot. So we had a good business going on. We were so a fintech law came out while we were still Payit. And that gave us a lot of importance in the market because we were one of the only ones that already had we're one of the only ones that could still be doing what we were doing right now. So for us, the fintech law was like a wall that was put between us that we were already in the market and the people that want to enter the market. So that was also really important for us.
Can you give an example of what the regulations or how the regulations were changed that favored you?
So for example, that was so the way it favored us is if anyone wanted to enter the market, they had to have first the regulation. So once the law came out, it's called octavo transitory. So it's the transitory part of the law. So basically, if you were doing this before the law came out, you can still do it. So anyone that was new, that was not before the law, they had a wall in the middle. They had to wait to get the permission in order to be able to do it. I don't know if it was.
That's very convenient for you guys.
I know. I know it was convenient in that point, but yeah, so it was part of it. And also we started becoming real experts in the fintech side, right? So at the beginning, I didn't see myself, my company as a fintech company. For me, it was a payments company. Why? Because we didn't have risks. We didn't have a lot of things that fintech companies you might think about. We were a payments company, basically, that was just a flow of money and information. And that's what we made really good. The flow of money and information was really streamlined and it was all automatic. After that, we started seeing a lot of, we didn't want to stay there, right? And we saw a lot of people were trying to do the same thing. And we started seeing where else could there be money. And that's when we started with our crypto ledger. So basically our goal was to have everyone in the country, so everyone that was an IFP, to be able to communicate with each other, right? So if you had wallet A and I had wallet B, it didn't matter. We could still communicate with each other. So that as a way to really, so that was going back to our first goal to eliminate cash. So that was how we were seeing it. If you have wallet A and I have wallet B, but we can't connect, then there's no way we're gonna, either you're gonna have to download wallet B or I'll have to download wallet A. And if we can't talk to each other, we'll end up using a way we can talk, which is with cash. So we started working on that, and basically that was what got us acquired. Basically, at the end, at that point.
Maybe before we go to that, I will be interested. While you were still Payit, while it was still 100% your company, at least 51.
No, at that point we were 100% now because we had already got some investment and etc.
Yeah. So maybe you can draw out and during these times before acquisition, what were your biggest challenges? I imagine it was never getting customers because you were solving such an obvious problem for them. But what were other pitfalls or challenges, barriers you had to face during that time?
So I think the challenges are a lot, and you're always going to have challenges, right? And you're always going to, it's a business. If it was easy, everyone would do it. But I think the biggest challenge, if I can summarize everything into one, it's all personal. Being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster. And not only, and more than anything, it's an emotional roller coaster. Some days, like when you tell you, hey, you want Seedstars Mexico, you're going to Switzerland, you feel like you're, holy shit, I'm the best thing that can ever happen. You're up here. But suddenly you go back and you're like, oh, no, you're going down and you're doing turns. So emotionally, it's really frustrating. I think that was one of the biggest issues that I had to face as an entrepreneur. Everything else, it's like a rocking chair, right? You can worry about it, but you're not moving. If you set your mind to it, you can fix it, or you can find the way to fix it. But the emotional part, the emotional roller coaster that as an entrepreneur you go through, I think that's one of the most important things that you have to keep into control, especially being the CEO and the founder, because everyone else in the company is looking at you. So if they see you like you are frustrated, they start getting worried about it. Right? So that's basically, that was for me one of the biggest challenges. And what I did a lot there was get together with other entrepreneurs, try to talk it out with them. They were in the same situation. My dad was a really good mentor for me in that point. He was also an entrepreneur, another type of entrepreneur, but also that. So he gave me a lot of balance in those points where you're feeling frustrated and you don't know what to do, that you want to quit. And yes, I think that was one of the biggest challenges in the entrepreneur side.
And do you remember still a piece of advice you got that still resonates with you, or that really helped you out of a black hole back then that you faced?
So basically, there's two parts that most of us that have friends that are not entrepreneurs, especially at the age that I was doing this. So I started Payit at age 24, 25. So right around that time is when people start making more money, right? That's when we start getting wages up and everything. And you see yourself like, damn it, I'm poor. I'm not getting anything. And one of the biggest things there that got me out of that state of mind was you're working for the future, you're not working for the present. And for young entrepreneurs, if there's a time to do it, is right now, right? When you don't have any needs, any money, if you have money to eat, rent, and go out partying, that's about everything you need. And occasional travel. But yeah, so basically that was about it. And I think the most important band that I got from it was not my dad, it was someone else. But it was like, do you like what you're doing? Are you passionate about the problem you're solving? Yes, then it's all worth it. Right? And if it's worth it, is it worth for you? Maybe it's not going to be money, but it's going to be something that you're going to be proud of what you're doing. And I think that was one of the biggest things that led me to this.
I'm always super interested in hearing how founders deal with the hardships of entrepreneurship and being a founder. So I also heard that you're very much into stoicism. Is that true?
That's true. So for everyone that hasn't read it, please read The Daily Stoic. I'm reading it again this year. I think it's super, super, super. It's a book that you read one page every day. And yeah, it's super good. And it gets your mind where it has to be, and being happy in that sense. But yeah, so
how does stoicism resonate with you? Like, what do you get out of it? That maybe you can also say, at what point in time did you stumble upon stoicism?
A friend of mine, Michael Feldman, from a company. He's also an entrepreneur from Eubank. He gave it to me 2 years ago. So basically, he gave it to me at that point because we were talking about in this talks with each other, like, hey, I'm feeling this way. I'm not centered enough. I don't know what's going on. Everyone around me, blah 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 blah. He's like, hey, you have to read this book. He gifted it to me, and throughout that whole year, I finished it. And after that, it was amazing. It was a good way to start. And how does it resonate with me? And the biggest thing is that you can't control everything, right? So the only thing you can't control is how you react to things. If an investment falls down, the only thing you can do, if you sob and you start crying, it's fine, cry, but learn that the only thing you have to do is go and look for another one. If there was a crash in your app, you have the power to go and solve it. So that's what I learned from Stoic, from being a Stoic in that sense, is basically you're in power of yourself. Everything that happens around you, sorry, I don't know if I can say crosswords, but shit will happen. It's how you react to that shit that will take you apart, and that's basically what really resonates with me, and it's what I take in my everyday life, not in business but in everything. Things are going to happen. The only thing you can control, and it's things that you can't control at all. The only thing you can control is how you react to them and what you do about them. And basically, that's what's helped me out a lot at that point.
Thanks for the recommendation. So the book was The Daily Stoic?
The Daily Stoic, exactly.
And I can imagine it like a calendar. So it's 1 page per day that you're supposed to read in the morning.
Yeah.
Whenever you find time.
Exactly. I've never been able to read it all. So basically, even if I skip a day, okay, the next day I read 2 pages. And it's just pretty fun.
And do you also meditate?
I can't. I've never been able to meditate. I haven't been able really to get into meditative status. So I think my mind goes too fast. And for example, when I sleep, I can't sleep in silence because I hear my own thoughts. So I have to put some type of white noise in the background so I can go to sleep. So I think that's why I've never been able to completely meditate. When I was in the research lab in Canada, I was part of an experiment that we did an EEG to a monk. And we saw how his brainwaves changed. And when he was in a meditative state towards when he was not. And we also compared him to my brainwaves. It was crazy. It was crazy. Since then, I've tried to meditate. I don't think I have been able to. The closest thing that I've been able to was count my breaths. And in that way, get into some type of meditative state, but not really. I don't think I haven't been able to do it yet. It's one of my goals, though.
And do you still get to play soccer?
Yes, actually. We just started a team in RappiPay. I play with my friends out there. I don't play as much as I used to, but now I have another goal, which is to own my own soccer team. So that's another story.
Nice.
If I wasn't able to be a professional, at least have something to do with it. That's
Very cool. So now I would be super interested to hear how the acquisition came about. So how did the conversations go? What was your state of mind? How was the negotiation? Yeah, can you maybe paint us a picture here?
It was, when I tell you the picture, you're gonna say like, that's not amusing at all. So basically, the story is that when I reached Rappi, it was because of the idea that I was telling you of making the crypto ledger, of making everyone interact.
So you reached out to Rappi?
Yeah, I reached out to Rappi, but to sell them something, not my company, to sell them a service. And I started talking to, so first I talked to someone in Mexico, then through Jonathan Lewy, which is a good friend. If you guys know Green, he's one of the founders of Green. He I had met Simon Borrera, the CEO, years back, but he reintroduced me to him, and I talked to him about our idea of getting rid of cash, and of getting rid of cash, about the crypto ledger and our goal and our mission and our view of the world without cash. And we had a couple of talks, so there was December 23rd, I think. We talked for about 3 hours. Then I talked to someone else in Rappi, again for like 3-4 hours. It was a really long talk. Also about our goals and about what we wanted to do and how we saw the fintech industry and basically our mission and our vision of Payit. And in January 3rd or 4th, I called Simon and I was like, hey, what's up? Do you want me to go and visit you in Colombia just to see if we can close this and get something going? He brought me there. Okay, perfect. I'll see you Thursday. I was not in Mexico City. I was in a beach somewhere else working, but at a beach. So I had to travel to Mexico, then grab a plane back there. And I visited him and I was like, hey, here's the deal. I explained again all the things that we wanted to do, being us, the back end of RappiPay, basically. And he was like, hey, I'm really interested, but how about if we do it together? And basically he gave me an offer that was extremely good. There was not much a negotiation. The negotiation came afterwards. And it was more on a negotiation of on the goals that we were looking for.
Mm-hmm. And going back to the offer you received, it sounds like it was a kind of a surprise/shock as you were more trying to sell your service, right? So what was your first thought? What was your first reaction?
I was super excited because basically the way I saw it is that we again with my soccer analogies, but we changed from playing on a second division to playing Champions League. Okay, so for me it was like, okay, perfect. So what really got me excited about this more than anything was the fact that a big company and a person like Simon had the same frame of mind and a frame of thought about the vision and the mission of this as we had, right? So if you ask me what has changed since we sold the company, basically nothing. Our goal is exactly the same as we had on on Payit, but now with more money, with a lot more power, and with our goal set not in Mexico but in Latin America.
I have some follow-up questions. How life is different now with more resources, but just one more question before that. Did your whole co-founding team think like that, or was there a debate among you guys?
We were on the same state of mind, and they've always thought really high of me in that sense. So when I talked to them, I was like, hey, Martin.
In which sense didn't they think highly of you?
And a lot of others. As I told you, in the technical side, probably they didn't think a lot of me at that point. but they were basically, hey, we trust you. You've taken us this far. If you believe it's the right move, let's take the plunge together. And so basically it was like that. And it's been a ride. And everyone got into the company. Everyone went from Payit to RappiPay, and we're still all there.
Wonderful. Everyone transitioned with you?
Everyone.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many people were you at the time?
14.
Very cool. So how is life now different as part of the Rappi ecosystem? How is it like? How do you use resources differently? How is your capabilities are so different now, right? So how did it change your life, your work, your everything?
It's an acceleration. I don't think my work, my life, or my anything has changed a lot. Because basically, we're still a startup. We're still trying to create a startup with more money, yes, but still a startup. We're following the hardships of the startup, trying to get product market fit, trying to understand the client, trying to get everything. What has changed is the speed, basically, right? So in that point is that so we have more people and more money to try new things. But that has changed. So probably a step that would have taken me 1 year in Payit with our 14 people now takes me 2 months to try out with the whole team being in Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, Peru. And it has also opened my mind that, hey, it's not just Mexico. The whole region needs this. And that's how it's changed. And more in a personal side, at the beginning, I thought it was going to be super hard to have a boss, and to try and to have to give and to work for someone. What I noticed, first of all, Rappi is a super entrepreneurial company. So basically, they let you do a lot of what you want to do, and they give you a lot of liberty. Hey, if you want this project, take it, make it yours, make it work, and that's all they do. And at the end of the day, for example, when I talk to the co-founders of Rappi, which are basically my bosses, when I talk to them, I'm talking like I talk to my investors. So basically, I changed one investors to another type of investors. So yeah, it has been hard. It has been hard in terms that you don't make all the decisions yourself anymore. But it's good to have someone to really talk to about, more people that understand where you're coming from, more people thinking about the same problem as you. And yeah, trying to come to different and to more established decisions in that point.
That sounds like you have a very good sparring partner relationship to them.
It's always a love-hate relationship, right? From both sides, I think. But it's been working out, and yeah, so it's fun at the end.
Since then, what has been maybe one super exciting thing that has happened and one challenging thing?
So the super exciting thing is that I do believe that we are on the path or on the opportunity to become the biggest financial service provider in Latin America. So that's something that's, for me, it's just mind-blowing, right? So hey, really, we're on this path, we can make it. When we see from where we were to where we are right now, what we're doing, it's there, and we believe we can create it, and we're on the path to do it, and you're being part of it. So that's something super, super exciting that's going on, and that's also the challenging part. So basically, yeah, the challenging part is, hey, you're becoming the biggest financial institution in Latin America. You have to really fight for it. You're going against amazing startups like Nubank and the likes, but also against established players like BBVA or HSBC. So so both of it's challenging, but at the same time, it's super, super exciting. I think that's a problem for me, that the challenging part is what I find exciting.
Mm-hmm. But that's good.
That's good, yeah.
Maybe that's why you enjoy the journey so much, and why you at least make it sound very smooth.
Yeah. It sounds smooth. It was not smooth at all. A roller coaster. That's the only way I see it.
Yeah. But you seem to get a really good hang of that kind of work and lifestyle.
Yeah, I like it. Work hard, play hard.
So we have actually a kind of quick fire questions prepared. But before we go into that, I also wanted to ask you, especially with having had this kind of roller coaster ride already behind you, at least this the beginning.
Yeah, the first part.
What would be so imagine now, people listening to this, they would be where you were 2 years ago, right? They have won their local Seedstars, competition, and they're now going on to, or would have been going on if it wasn't thanks to the coronavirus, to be in Switzerland. So if you imagine back then what you needed to hear, what you know now, what is it that you would tell them?
First of all, that it's worth it. So having an office job, you can always go back to having an office job. If you've had one before, you can do it. If you don't, just having your own company gives you a lot of open-mindedness. So it's completely worth it to keep on pursuing the what you're pursuing right now. The other thing that it's something that I've heard a lot, and that I really believe, is you have to be in love with the problem, not the solution. So maybe you have an app right now, but maybe the solution is a WhatsApp bot. No, that would be another thing that I would have loved to hear back then, and someone to convince me of it. And so it's worth it. Fell in love with your problem, and see it as that, as a journey, right? Even if it fails, even if it's everything, what you've learned, no one else is going to know more about that business than you. Okay, no one. Not mattering where they come from, not mattering how many years they had been in the realm or in the business. they're not going to know more than you because you've been through it from the start all the way to wherever you get it.
Digging a little bit deeper in point number 2, did you, as I'm sure it happens to not only many entrepreneurs, but almost every person, just because you have the bias to really believe in what you do yourself, but did you fall into the trap of falling in love with your solution rather than your problem?
100%. I love my mobile app. Right now, I'm like, hey, I could have done a WhatsApp bot or whatever else, or tried different things, but I was so into my mobile app that it was a trap. Just like a horse, just got me like this, sometimes like this, trying to see to the sides. But yeah, but it's something that I think it's super important for all of us to have in mind. You're going for a problem, not the solution.
Yeah. I see a lot of young entrepreneurs working on an app while they haven't even, tested the market, and they could easily have a WhatsApp group or even a call list.
But that's
waste resources on building an app.
For example, we did that, but we believe that we did it correctly. Why? Because we're all programmers. So for us, it was much cheaper to program the app and to like come out with a version that was already there, and try it out once in the hands of people, than try and do like a mock-up or go and show it. That would have taken us more time than just build the app and deliver it to the people. And yeah, so I think you have to know what are your strengths. If you're a programmer, I would say forget about anything that has to do with the market research. No, just do it, program it, deliver it, and that's how you learn. If you have to hire programmers and you have to put money to hire the programmers, then yes, okay, go through the market research or try to do some research beforehand. But find your strengths and try to play with them.
So back then, when you were kind of on the path to solve your own issue with you forgetting to pay the rent, how long did it take you to build that first automation?
Around a month and a half, 2 months. So the first version, which was really by hand, to make it all automatic, it took us around 4 months, 5 months.
And this first manual version, that was already used by others?
Yeah. So that was the first version I used.
But that was kind of your MVP version in the end, right?
Yeah, kind of. I didn't really like it. I was like, this doesn't work. It's not possible. It's the same work. No, let's do it automatic. Let's really do something. So yeah. And another thing that everyone that's starting a company right now, that's thinking about starting a company, I would really encourage them to think about, and if you haven't heard of this thing, it's called first principles. So basically, think it from the start. Don't think about analogies. Don't think about how people have done it before. Think about what's the real problem and solve that real problem. That's something that also in my case, I would have loved to heard before when I just started, but I think it's super important for all of us.
Can you give an example? Because I know that a lot of people already know about it, because also Elon Musk is a big proponent of first principles. But for everyone who hasn't heard about it, can you give an example so that people understand it more easily?
For example, Elon Musk has done everything in a first principle. So why do rockets have to be only used once? Why can we reuse the rockets time and time again? That's a first principles approach. Not just making better the rocket that was made in the 50s, 40s, but rethinking what's a rocket. In my case, it's rethinking what's a bank. So when you think about a bank, you think about branches. I haven't put a foot in a branch in a year and a half, I think. And the last time I put a foot in a branch was because I needed to. It was not that I wanted to, it was that it was the only way to get something done. So basically that's first principles. Basically thinking about the problem and not and starting and solving the problem from the start, versus being the of doing like an analogy problem solving. Hey, they did it like this before. Let's do a partial change that's a little bit better. So the way they put it, a lot of people that I've read, like this. It's the difference between the chef and being the cook. When you're the chef, you start something from scratch. You think, okay, I want a good flavor. So you start making all the recipes yourself and everything. When you're the cook, you already have the recipe from the chef. You might change a little bit of things to put more flavor, put more salt, put a different kind of species, whatever, but you're not making something from scratch. So those are the two types of thinkings. Both are correct. I think as young people and as trying to do something new, first principles is the way to go. But you can also make a lot of changes being on the analogy side.
I like that. I did not hear that illustration before.
It's fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really like going down to the root problem, right? That you need to solve.
Exactly.
Okay. Do you have anything else that you want to get off your chest before we started to the quick fire round?
No, just that everyone that wants to be an entrepreneur really fell in love with the problem. Making money is not a problem. Making money, you're saying number of ways of making money. Fell in love with a problem, and you guys will be successful, at least in learning or anything else that you set your mind to.
That sounds like a good note to end the open interview on, or open conversation on. Okay, then let me start with my quick fire question checklist. Number one would be, and we've already discussed this a little bit, but maybe this is another opportunity for you to really hammer it home. So what kind of impact do you want to have?
I think there's a lot of ways to answer that, right? In the personal side, I've always wanted to be remembered. So basically that's my being only remembered by my family or by people around me, just be remembered. And on the impact side, more on the side of the business, I would love to be remembered as a guy that killed cash.
As easy as it is, kill cash.
As easy as it is, kill cash.
What do you want to be remembered as on the personal side? Since you've mentioned it first? A
good person.
What makes a good person for you?
Exactly, I don't know. So basically, for some people, for people that I play soccer with, it's like, hey, he was a good soccer player. For my family, when I get to have, so he was a good son, he was a good brother. So just a good person in all of those parts.
So high expectations for yourself in everything you do.
Yeah, exactly. At least not be bad.
Okay, so the next question in the quick fire round is, how many jobs did you create or did you help to create?
Directly 14. Indirectly in Payit. Help create, I would say, around 50, including everyone that we used in order to have this going on. If you go to a third degree using the banks and everyone else, it's just exponential.
Okay, moving on to the next question. What is a book, documentary, podcast, or any kind of learning material that you would recommend?
As I told you, Daily Stoic. It's one of the first ones. Execution is another one. And Blitzscaling. Those three for me have been my Bibles.
Blitzscaling comes up a lot for this question, by the way.
Execution is better, though. It's really old.
Yeah?
I can't remember who wrote it right now, but it's super interesting how it teaches you how to really create an execution-based company.
I'll put it on my list then. Thanks.
Yeah, no. It's super, super, super interesting and super important.
These kind of books, do you still read them or do you listen to them?
I read them because listening, I have a undiagnosed ADD. So listening for me, it's not good because if I have my eyes somewhere else, I just start thinking of other things and it just becomes noise for me.
Mm-hmm. Completely understand. Okay, so everyone put the Daily Stoic, Execution, and Blitzscaling on your lists.
Yes.
The next question is, what are your company's values?
To be honest, for me, values are just buzzwords. It's basically, and I'm going to tell you how I see the values inside. So it's basically honesty, because we work with money. The second one was execution. 100%. Always be executing, always be closing. Do the things as fast as you can, and then it's teamwork. But I would put it in so it's honesty and execution, because without teamwork you can't execute. And so yeah, so basically I think it's those two that really define how I've been working and how we work right now.
And do you have them written down as well, or it's for you more kind of your expectation for yourself, and that's also then how you portray to your team, and you hope that they will hence behave in the same way?
We wrote them at some point, so somewhere there must be written down. Why? Because someone asked for it and we had to do it. But I don't think values are something that you reinforce on day to day, right? And those two things are the two things that you're expecting, and we don't need to have them written down, because every day we go to work, every day we talk to each other, it's always coming up. It's always coming up on how we work and we're expecting from each other. And it's not basically what I expect from me, it's what I expect from the person in front of me, and what the person in front of me expects from me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the flow that we are getting into.
Okay, moving on to the second to last question on the list. What is a word, phrase, or quote that would describe you?
In Spanish, encuentra el como si. In English, is find the way to do it. There's always a way to do it, find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really, as I said before, when you mentioned it first, I really like that. That's really an attitude that a lot more people should adopt, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially the ones on service lines. Oh my God.
Yes.
So, Martin, as you are one of our heroes, we would like to hear who is a hero for you.
My dad, for sure.
Elaborate.
My dad comes from really humble beginnings. He comes from a little town which is around 3,000 people in the north of Mexico. He had no money at all. Through work, through his intelligence, he's been able to take his kids, especially my sister, to the most important university in the world, to Stanford, coming from a town literally this big. And yeah, that's what my hero. Through work and through really ethic work and a lot of sweat, you can do whatever you want or wherever you put your mind to.
So you're now mentioning your parents a second time. Would you think that you would, I mean, this is a super esoteric, super hypothetical question, but I'm still going for it, whatever. Do you think you would be able to pull everything off that you have pulled off if it wasn't for the way you were brought up and what you experienced having your parents as your parents?
Not at all. Not at all. I think all of us were made. We are a collection of the people we've been with the most, the thoughts those people have put into us, and the way they've treated us. And thinking of that, there's no way I could have done that either without my parents or my brothers or my uncles or my friends, or even what happened to me at Seedstars. Knowing all those people, that's what has made me all the path that I've been going to.
You've lived in many places around the world, such as Vancouver, where people maybe have had a super easy start in life. They grew up very privileged. Do you sometimes have, or when you first started, or when you first moved to Vancouver, did you have an issue relating to those people?
No, what I always saw, I mean, I've had a pretty privileged life myself. So I don't think it's fair for me to not put myself in that sector. What I did see was the hunger for different stuff that people liked or that people wanted to do. Right? From the moment I got to Vancouver, for me was always, hey, I want to start something of my own, because that's the only way that I'm going to really be able to, by the time I'm 40 years old, be able to really spend time with my kids. And other people were like, no, it's the other way around. I think that was the difference with us. For me, it was, hey, in order to be able to spend more time with my kids, I need to be able to work less. Coming from a third world country, from a developing country, the only way you get to have more time is not working for someone, is being your own boss. And basically decide when you want to retire. No, and that's something that really hit me when I was in Canada. Being and for this the other way around. If you have a company that needs a lot of work, if you work for someone, then you have your hours straight, 9 to 5, etc., etc., etc. So that was one of the things that for me hit me. I still decided to go my way. I still think it's a better one, to be able to do control your own time, so not depend on anyone else.
I hope this will work out for you as you have imagined it.
Thank you very much.
And so that you can also, have a new generation prosper with these kind of values.
Perfect. Thank you.
So Martin, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. It was amazing catching up with you. I hope you and everyone stay safe, and I can't wait to see the places you will go.
Thank you very much, Adriana. And if you guys need anything, listening to the podcast, my email is martinmexia@gmail.com. So if you want to talk, if you want to shoot me an email, I'm open for anything.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our hero's journey, and subscribe now for more stories on Seedstars podcast.